Hello and welcome to, of course, not only a fantastic performance car, a stalwart in fact of the Mercedes performance range, every single generation and iteration of the C63 is an absolute performance monster. This one really does show, though, the leaps and bounds which they took not only in performance but also in efficiency, and that's something which you wouldn't necessarily expect from something with AMG written on it. But also this particular car has a fantastic history and condition behind it, because being a 2016 shaped car at under £30,000, this has actually covered 27,000 less miles than the average for one of these on the market at only 21,000 on the clock. It has a full service history behind it with 6 services. Its most recent was in April of this year, still has its original book pack, and of course 2 keys, and a February of 2025 MOT, of course, with no advisories whatsoever. What you really care about, though, when it comes to an AMG is the juicy bits, and that of course is the engine. Instead of the typical large, say 6+ litre V8 in naturally aspirated or supercharged form, depending on how you take your AMG, this one is a BiTurbo 4 litre V8, so a radical departure from what you'd expect from an older shaped C63, and that is really where things get interesting from an engineering perspective. Typically a Mercedes AMG is something of a German muscle car. This propels it from the already muscle car status which these cars have, not least of which because of one key thing, and that is that Mercedes AMG often favour having more torque than horsepower. And even though that isn't something which many people talk about, no pun intended, it is a fantastic advantage for a fast car to have. Because what that means in practice is if you have more torque than horsepower, you are never working the engine that hard, the engine never feels like it's really going to break a sweat, and still the performance from said engine and said car is tremendously rapid. In the case of this one, for example, this is literally a supercar level machine, 4.1 seconds from 0 to 60, and at the same time, because of that improvement in efficiency, these are officially rated at up to 35 miles to the gallon average and as high as 42 on a motorway run. And of course, being a Mercedes, said motorway run is a very comfortable place to be. At the same time, to go back to that torque, it has 480 foot-pounds to its 470 horsepower, highlighting the point earlier on. Having that sheer amount of torque not only allows the car to have the aforementioned tremendous performance, but it is part of the reason why that efficiency is so good, because if an engine doesn't have to rev that high, it also doesn't have to use as much fuel. So across the board you have better performance, it gives the car more of a muscular low-end performance delivery with that punch of low-end torque, and better efficiency as well. It also means that driving the car as a cruiser is that much easier also because you're not constantly working the engine. When you look down the list of all of these engineering and performance advantages, it really is no wonder, especially with the muscle car factor on top, that Mercedes would often favour having more torque than horsepower on their AMGs in particular, and this car is a fine addition to that iconic lineage, a wildly different engine, especially with that BiTurbo, but the performance, the efficiency, certainly the sound, all are well suited to wearing the AMG badge. So of course, if you are on the market for a C63 BiTurbo, certainly for under £30,000 with fantastic mileage, then of course you could reach out regarding this car via the email shown here on screen, or of course give us a call on 01749 871 155, or alternately on our mobile number of 07482 267 439.